Well, hello, and welcome to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. You are listening to the Brittney Bundles podcast, where we empower people through entrepreneurship. Today, we have a very special guest by the name of Teresa Rush. She is a cosmetologist, and she owns a company by the name of Bluxy Boulevard, LLC. She is going to be talking a little bit about her journey in the beauty industry, and we're going to be learning how to start and run a successful mobile beauty business. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the podcast over to her for her to introduce herself and to start sharing some tips with us regarding her journey. So hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so good. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. And I'm excited to have you on the show. And I've been a fan of yours because you've been very consistent and you also share very valuable information in regards to the beauty industry. And I know that you have tons of knowledge. I follow your Facebook group and also your YouTube channel. And so I'm really excited and I'm thankful that you are a part of the show today. So
Thank
what would you like
you.
to start with as far as sharing about who you are and your journey? I'm excited to learn more.
Awesome. Well, I think it's very important for people to, just kind of get a feel for like how I came about this journey. I think that's like extremely important. A lot of people, they just really are looking from the outside in and everything looks so good and everything just seems so easy and so simple, and
Yeah.
then people try to just say I can do that, and then they find out it's not as easy and as simple. But even within all of that, I think it's very important that people are okay to grow with their brand. I think a lot of us, we kind of look on Instagram and look on Facebook, and we have these people who we adore, for whatever reason. And we're like, they inspire us. And then we just want to do what they do and we want to do it their way. And it doesn't always work out that way for us when we do it that way and not according to the way that we ourselves need to do it.
Yeah.
So I was born in Chicago, Illinois. It was there that I developed a strong passion for hair and fashion. My mother attended cosmetology school back home in Chicago. And I can remember when I would come home from school, I would read my mother's cosmetology guide. And at the age of 7, I found it mentally stimulating that all the information I read was easily understood. And so eventually I came home to the study guide and the workbook missing with all the papers because I created a big mess. So my mother threw everything out, Brittney.
Oh no.
My heart was
Wow.
broken because the space I created to learn, connect, and grow was all gone as though it never existed. And so there was a time where I began to style Barbie, the Barbie doll hair that I had,
Okay.
because I had kind of grown out of playing with, the doll house and the car that Ken supposedly secretly bought for Barbie. So that was like the beginning journey of just exploring what I could do with hair. And so I remember I was about 12 years old. My sister, who is the oldest of the 5 of us, saw that I had styled Barbie hair really cute and creative. And my sister said, do my hair like your Barbie. And I was just like, you know what? Your head this big, my Barbie head is this small, and I can't do it. Well, my sister plays an extremely important part in my journey because she went out to the local beauty supply store in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and she went and brought back a pack of braiding hair. And before you know it, I was doing not only her hair, but her friends' hair and their family hair. So
Oh
within
wow.
that year, I really had a full blown mobile beauty business. I just did not understand the life of an entrepreneur. I think it's very important for us to identify our surroundings because my mom and her husband at the time, they they were like cleaning banks, and he eventually grew into getting his own like lawn care and maintenance and, you know, cleaning business, but they never really talked to me deeply about that and what that was like. But they never let go of that 9 to 5 either. So I don't really believe that they even knew what being an entrepreneur was or what it even meant. And most of the people that I had around me to support me at that time, they would ask me questions like, is this your hobby? So I always viewed being in the beauty industry at that particular time as a hobby, because the people who I serviced, that's where their mind was at. And so from that point, I would just be like, yeah, I would just agree with them and say, yeah, Brittney. And then I started to understand that they were telling me to get my license, go to beauty school, get my license, and then go work in someone else's shop, like most of the majority of hairstylists do. And my thing was, even at 12, why would I go to beauty school to learn something that I already know how to do? And they would just tell me, you know what, that's the way Uncle Tom got it. He wants his cut. And so eventually I did just that. I did what my environment fed back into me. I went to cosmetology school in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and which is now in Portage, Michigan. And I, you know, went, put my 1,500 hours in. I serviced my community at the same time, known as bootlegging. And I graduated and got my cosmetology license, and I did exactly what they said. I went and worked in someone else's shop. And so I wasn't able to identify that I had already started a brand because I knew nothing about the business world as an entrepreneur.
Wow. And so you worked in someone else's shop for about how many years until you discovered that you actually have what it takes
Yeah.
to have your own?
So the first year, let me see, where was I? I just kind of still did my own thing because that's what I was so used to, and it just worked for me. And then it just kind of felt like I was cheating myself because everybody would ask me, "Your license, you know, why aren't you in the shop?" You know, it's like the salon most definitely made people think that it was, I could have more. That was the mindset. And so people thought that if I was in a physical location, brick and mortar, with other stylists, that I would dominate. And so they, you know, didn't understand what I understood, and they didn't have the confidence that I had for myself. So I kind of played around with that. And I also worked for some, you know, top well brand known corporations. So I would say a total of doing my own thing plus doing that for probably about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
And where would you suggest that anyone listening to the podcast, if they're wanting to get started with their own mobile beauty business, how can they start? Where should they look for resources? Or
Well, they should most definitely reach out to me. I have created an ebook for those who just want to read and get some, you know, basic, very structured and very important information. Let me not dummy that down, on how to start and run a successful mobile beauty business. It is a workbook. We have webinars as well. But I think the ebook is a really good way to kind of start to kind of dig in to say, hey, am I really ready to invest in being mobile?
Okay. And where can they find your ebook?
They can find my ebook at Biloxi, BLVD.com. That's BULUXYBLVD.com.
Perfect. And also, what are some challenges that you've experienced transitioning from being in the brick and mortar location at different salons versus changing shifts a little bit and still doing what you love to do, but doing it on your own terms, being mobile? Do you have
Well,
any?
that's a great question, Brittney. And I will respond and say I had more issues in a brick and mortar location than I did, just going. 99% of my clientele are mobile clients, and only 1% come to me. So I would like to kind of discuss the opposite of that, because that's the most important part, is identifying with who you are and what really makes you happy. And I really wasn't ever happy in a building offering my services. Number one, the environment, it just always seemed like the environment was always, it always represented who was managing the salon, whether they had, been in the beauty industry or not. You've had a business yourself, so you can understand. Also, whoever they decide to bring on the team plays a very effective part in the overall ambiance of the space. And I just found myself all the time not being able to push myself to limits that I hadn't, embraced yet. And it just seemed like I always found myself, trying to, not make other people feel uncomfortable about my confidence and about the gifts and the talents that I had concerning the beauty industry. And it would be a lot of times, not trying to sound cocky, that I will walk in a room and the room would shift and people will feel it. But instead of saying, hey, Teresa, there's something about you, I would like to, get some input from you, pull from you a little bit. I noticed, A, B, C, and D, and I would love to, sit down and talk with you to kind of find out how I can get a little bit of that too. Instead, it was really a lot of intimidation to other people, because I don't know, when I show up, I arrive, and I'm there for the client and not necessarily other people. And so when they see me focused and driven, it's very natural to me, Brittney. And so I never noticed it to be of a value or of it to be a problem. But 99% of the time, it really affected the other stylists, especially people who were just coming out of cosmetology school. And so moving forward, identifying like, hey, Teresa, this brings you more peace. This brings you more money. You don't, your money is not coming and going into someone else's wallet. You get to keep 100% of your hard earned labor. And so I just started to weigh my options, and I started to say, you know what, I haven't really ever been anywhere that I absolutely love, I absolutely adore, that was really professional to my standards and my level of what I want the world to perceive me as. And then I started looking at the amount of money that was coming out from me. And I was just like flabbergasted and was like, we got to do something different. And then that's when I realized, I'm a very spiritual person. That's when I realized that God had opened up my eyes and was like, this is the way that I have set for you to run your business. And so I started to identify with my childhood and just some of the things that people would tell me, and, going to cosmetology school, the things that I experienced there, and then moving forward, working in corporations, and then just working for myself. And I was like, why would I bring all this heartache and pain and, not being who I truly, fully can be? And I just decided that, we're going to be 100% about this mobile business.
I love that. That's really inspirational. So to anyone out there that's currently in the salon and they're wanting to transition from that salon to doing exactly what you're doing, would you recommend them staying there a little bit longer depending on where they're at in their career to build up clientele, or do you have any tips regarding that?
I would say that if it is not sitting right with you, you owe it to yourself to try whatever it is that you need to try in order to figure out where you fit at in the marketplace when it comes to the beauty industry. If you are not happy, you owe it to yourself to find happiness within whatever it is that you do. For me, the beauty industry, doing hair, mainly hair extensions, installing hair extensions, is what I'm known for, as well as growing out hair. And so for me, that is my passion. I love to just see the smile on at the end of the service on the individual's face. And so that's what floats my boat, you know. And so you have to really find out and dig within yourself on what floats your boat. And so if you are not in that space, again, you owe that to yourself to figure that out. And so I really highly recommend that people do a really deep search within themselves. You know, look at your attitude, look at your background, look at your ethnicity, look at the environment in the different stages of your life, because all of this play a part in you being catapulted where you probably should have been 10 years ago. Okay. And so I just really believe that when things are just not feeling like their first nature, then that means that we're probably not where we really need to be. And so if we do a self-assessment and we be really real with ourselves, because come on, if we're not real with ourselves, we can't be real with others. And so I think when we really look at our strengths and our weaknesses and we focus on how we can become better and produce in that area, then it'll all come together.
Thank you for that. And I do have another question. I know when I was in the salon, a lot of the stylists would have different questions and sometimes even struggles with building clientele, especially in a smaller city. Do you have any tips or any insight on how to build a successful beauty business, even if you're in a smaller city?
Absolutely. So today we are rapidly moving really fast. Like the online presence is extremely being widened. And so many people, whether they're traveling, like to me, I found out I was called to corporate women who really work really hard, who every minute of the day counts. And so again, going back to identifying with who you are, who you're called to in the beauty I was going to say ministry, in the beauty industry, AKA ministry, because it's something that you have to give that those people need. And so you're still in a way ministering to those people through beauty, right? And so I believe that once an individual really find out what it is that they want to offer and what they want to be known by, you have to choose that product and blow it out the water. You want to make sure that you have really good content. And when I'm talking about content, I'm talking about high resolution photos. I'm talking about a really nice blog. You're pouring out your emotions about what you're experiencing. I'm talking about vlogging, which you're so good at vlogging. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can learn from this woman. I'm always on your YouTube channel.
I'm learning from you.
All your videos. And I'm like sitting here like, oh my gosh, Teresa, come on, you got to get it together. And so just understanding who you are, what you really want to be known for, and then taking that and putting it in content and putting it on the web. And I will always recommend that people learn about SEO, which is search engine optimization, because a lot of people are naming their businesses, you know, Slay by this or Woo this or Woo that, and nobody's going to search Slay my hair. No one's going to search. We're going to search and try to identify with what it is that we need and not necessarily the name of the person. So search engine optimization is very important because a lot of us are on our electronic devices, whether it's a cell phone, laptop, desktop, you know, we're always on some type of electronic device. And so you also want to make sure that your site or whatever it is that you have out there that is mobile friendly. Because a lot of times people go to other people's websites from their cell phone, and the website is not set up properly to where it can maneuver and you can see everything in its own space and that is not blocking anything. And so SEO has a lot to do with that as well. And never forget that your meta tag and your title tags are important, and that they need to really be a replica of who you are and what you have to offer. And I believe that when people focus on their online presence and just make sure that their content lines up and that they're not all over the place. Like for you, Brittney, on YouTube, you're a resource guy. You have built a community of phenomenal must-have, you need resources, right? And so I've been able to learn so much from the time and the energy that you compress for us to just go and watch a video. And so because of that, your channel has grown. You see the payoff. And so that's how it is within our business in other areas as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I know it can be very, sometimes it can be hectic depending on how you structure your day. I'm trying to get a lot better with that myself, on not always being on the go, go, go. But depending on where you are in your business, I know there's more goal that's required than other areas, depending on how long you've been, and like I mentioned, the structure. Do you have any tips on how to stay organized? How do you stay organized running a mobile beauty business?
Oh my goodness, Brittney, that's another good question. You coming with the hot questions. Okay?
I want to know for myself.
She like, I want to know the tea, okay?
Yes.
Give me the tea. Okay, so a lot of times I tell people you got to go buy my course, but because you have given so much to the community, I am willing to talk about this. So the most important thing is a calendar. Okay, like you have to be willing to just have a physical calendar. You have to be willing to have an electronic calendar, because at any given time or place, you may need to view it. Okay, so for instance, I'm gonna give you an example and then I'm gonna go into a couple other tips. I was out at the local beauty supply store. I do not really buy anything from the beauty supply store unless it's like synthetic braiding hair or crochet hair, okay? And so I was out and about, and I always go to the same beauty supply store unless they don't have what I need. But predominantly 99% I'm at that store. And so I was in the store and I was on the phone and I was talking and shopping at the same time. A girl ran from behind the counter and she said, "Teresa, is that you?" And I'm ducking and dodging like, oh. And she ran up to me, she booked the appointment and paid right there on the spot. And we were talking about 3 weeks before she could even get in. And so we always have to be ready. So if I didn't have my calendar on my devices, or if I didn't have like a tangible calendar, then I will be telling her, you know what, can I call you? Can I text you? Can I this? Can I that? And then before I know it, my day done got busy and I done forgot and I lost out on that big sale. And so calendar prioritizing in that way is so important. The second thing I would say is be willing to fill your book up 3 weeks. So like within, let's say, let me see, today is the 17th, right? And so your books should reflect what you want to achieve within the next 3 weeks already, right now. So let's say that a person was like, okay, I want to make a minimum of $1,000 for every week. Let's because I'm gonna try to make this as simple because my math will kick in really strong. So let's say a person say, I want to make $1,000 a week, only putting in 20 hours, no more, maximum. Okay, so we're gonna say the maximum of 20 hours, right? And so for me, I specialize in hair extensions. So nothing takes longer than 2 hours, okay, that I do, nothing, okay? Someone might catch me on a good, month where I feel like doing some braids, some singles, but it really don't happen that much. And so I'm already like, this is what I need to do to bring that type of income in. So I make sure that I give myself a number, okay, that's an example. And then I tell myself, how can I show up online that will pull that traffic to that number? Let me see, another tip I would give is to get enough rest, okay? Now, I'm not gonna talk about exercise right now, because if I do, I'll be talking about myself, because COVID done jack some stuff up, right? But it's important to make sure that you stay hydrated and that you get enough rest, because when you're not getting your body enough time to regenerate its cells and things of that nature when you're asleep, you will wake up and you will feel it, and you'll be focused on things that you really don't need to be focused on, and your day won't be so productive, but you might still be busy. But then when nighttime comes, you're like, dang, what did I do for my bed? I ain't done nothing. I just kind of been running here and there and there and here. It ain't got nothing to do with what I got going on, right? And
Yes.
so those are the 3 top tips that I would give people. But that calendar is most definitely like life or death.
And do you keep your calendar on your phone for appointments, or do you make sure that you actually have a physical calendar book?
Both, because my phone will go dead, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
stuck again. I'm stuck again. And so, if and this, even when I'm traveling, I have a backup phone and a backup like GPS system, so that I can make sure that I can still get wherever I'm going in case all my devices go dead.
That makes sense. I like that.
So it's important to have both. I know we like, oh, that's, my grandmama days or whatever, but it's important, Brittney, to have both, because devices will fail you. They will fail. So still a address and phone number, part in that calendar needs to be utilized, so you're always ready. And trust me, I learned this the hard way.
I've been trying to write more things down in my physical calendar as well, and it's really been working. It kind of engraves it in your mind a little bit more, at least for me.
I
So,
agree. It does that for me too as well. Because we much on our electronic devices already,
yeah,
that it's like, okay, sometimes you want to pull away from it and you just want to look at a book, something that's tangible that you can actually like, okay, I wrote this. Yeah.
I agree. And then also one thing that I noticed about you or a couple of things that I've noticed, you're really good with relating to other people, even in your lives. A lot of people will go live and not even acknowledge the people that are watching them. And you're really good with relating to people in your comments and starting conversations. And I know that's an important part in any sales business.
Yeah.
How can we be more relatable? How can we be more interactive with our clients and customers to kind of still those relationships for repeat business?
I think the number one key is to just really honestly be yourself. Like, I think that most of the time when people can see us in our true rawness, that attracts them, or either it just makes them want to go on, right, about their business. So you're not wasting their time and they're not wasting your time. Now, I'm not talking about like, using profanity or showing up half naked or, just doing like off the wall wild things to be relatable. I'm talking more about who you are. And because of who you are, this is really what you have to bring to the table, and just really stick with that. I think for me in the beauty industry, because I love makeup, I love fashion, and hair is most definitely my first passion. But, sometimes it's easy to kind of jump around. And I think it's okay to let people see you in that light, but I think it's even more important that I learned as time went on to make sure you use those on the right platform. So if I'm on Facebook, you know, one moment I'll be talking about wigs, the next moment I'll be talking about makeup and this launched and that launched. And then I build these groups, like these avatars, but they're all on my timeline. And then I had nowhere else to really keep them updated when I wasn't doing that type of thing on my regular personal news feed. And so I think it's very important to say, hey, you know, on Facebook, I'm going to talk about lifestyle and my spirituality. On LinkedIn, I'm going to talk about things that's important to other businesses, because LinkedIn is a business to business platform. On YouTube, I'm going to talk about, you know, tools and equipment and my journey as a, you know, entrepreneur. And so I think it's very important for people to also not only just be their true self, but understand which platform will, you know, have the most payoff for whatever part of you that you want to be relatable in. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Okay. So thank you for that.
You're
and
welcome.
Then also being operating a mobile beauty business, do you ever feel frightened to go to someone else's home or to have someone come to your home?
Never. And so I think part of that confidence and that boldness that used to show up in the brick and mortar place that people wasn't like really feeling, they didn't know really what it was, but since you asked me that question, I can really see that that will pop up. So for instance, when the pandemic happened, when COVID happened, you know, people needed services. We have newscasters, we have journalists, we have people that just can't pop up looking a hot mess, right? Like they still need their hair done, they still need their makeup done, like they still need these services, right? Like they're not, just because a pandemic is going on, you know, they're not, you know, they already set up for this type of stuff, right? They've been practicing getting their hair, their nails done, making sure that their wardrobe and everything is professional. And so everybody needed these services. And so a lot of times I would hear people say, oh my gosh, I need my hair done. What am I going to do? And I'm like, oh, so you think that just because COVID happened that I'm not going to show up? Or you think that just because people are looting and rioting that I'm not going to show up? I'm not going to show up in those places, but I will show up for you. And so I had to remind people that my business was already set up, thank God, that I was already a super sanitizable person. I always, you know, kept things, you know, nice and neat. I knew about infection control and I took it very seriously. And so for me, I was not intimidated by COVID. I was not intimidated by the rioting and the looting. I knew that I heard in my mind to go forth. And so that's exactly what I did. And I made the most amount of money during that very short period of time than I have pretty much almost all year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's really inspiring. I'd love to learn more about how you made money during quarantine, during COVID, or maybe not during quarantine, but during this whole pandemic, because I know that's been a struggle for a lot of entrepreneurs. And the good thing is you are going to be back with us on the next week's podcast as well.
Yay.
So do you have any last words, or would you like to shout out your social media?
Well, I would just like to say, first of all, thank you so much, Brittney, for having me. You are an inspiration in more ways than you probably can even count or even recognize. And I just want to say thank you for showing up for us in the marketplace, because you have so much that you have brought to the table, especially for me. And so I just want to let you know that, you know, every video that you do most definitely play a really big part in my business. And so I just want to say thank you. And I pretty much just look forward to being here next week.
Thank you. And how can we stay connected? I want everyone to join your group and follow your website, your social media.
Well, you can find me at Bluxy, that's Buluxy, blvd.com. Again, that's Biloxi, BLVD, short for boulevard.com. You can most definitely connect with me over there. And then I have all the other links to all my other social medias right there on that website.
Perfect. Well, again, it was a pleasure having you on the show. You've inspired me as well. I enjoy your content. And again, we're going to have you right back next week. If there's anyone listening that would like to be a part of the podcast, please feel free to reach out to me via email at Btalks, that's BTALKS, @yahoo.com. And until next time, we'll see you all in the next podcast episode.